Hey, kids, it's the Matt Murphy Radio Show getting underway for another day. It is 12:04. May I be the first to say a good afternoon on this Thursday, November 9th, 2023. Hope you've got some time to spend with us. We have 180 minutes. That's our allotment. Coming up after us, it's The Drive with no Brian Wilson. Pamela Furr is in for Brian. You know, I didn't mention this yesterday, only because I wasn't certain as to how much Brian had discussed this, but Brian had a little medical procedure. He is doing A-OK just fine. Cabana wife wanted everyone to know that. Pamela will be in today, and Brian is expected back tomorrow. But we're here till 3 o'clock. Hope to hear from you, 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWT, and that's the telephone number, and you're always invited to call, even if we disagree. As a matter of fact, disagreement goes to the front of the line. And you can also super text the show at the same number. I give them often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. You know, young Bell K, who is behind the glass making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers that sounds as good as humanly possible, he's back there. Mac Morey will be back in moments, about an hour or so, delivering some news. Bell puts together those last time on little sweeps that bring us into the show. Like if you miss a moment, you miss a lot. It is designed to keep you listening with rapt attention for at least 3 hours of the broadcast day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And if you're not able to listen for a full 3 hours, I would suggest that you need to get your priorities in order. Secondarily, if you miss something, if you have a meeting or whatever, life happens to you, we like to tease you with what you have missed, suggesting that maybe you should spend some more time with us today in order not to miss anything.
Skip those meetings.
That's exactly right. Skip those meetings. So, with that in mind, yesterday, if you missed the call from Chris, boy, oh boy, you missed a lot. Chris declared that the state of Kentucky was racist, and we kind of got off on a sidetrack on that. Well, Chris connected with me on social media last night, and he's still pretty ticked about all of this. It is a connection that I will share with you later on in the show. I'm excited about it. Chris says that I am bombastic and conservative, which I've never claimed to be, and incompetent. And he claims that I'm saying that he said something that he did not say. And for a while during this conversation on Facebook, this random conversation, I didn't know who the guy was. And he's mad at me. And I'm like, why are you so mad at me about something that happened on the show? And he's going after me. And I was like, well, you should call up. What, so you can just hang up on me again? I was like, oh, you're that Chris. Oh, now I understand why you're pissed. I'd be pissed, too, if I were you. You got owned by a talk show host in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, that'd piss you off, right? It would me. I'd be smarting over it, even to this day. I would be listening to that talk show host right now, angrily, waiting my opportunity to call him again. And Chris, you may do so. 615-737-9986. I'll give you another opportunity to make a fool of yourself. I'm happy to do it. Speaking of making fools of ourselves, Bell, we're on TV. Hello, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. It is our opportunity to speak truth to the television masses, and it is episode 452, which is entitled
Matt Murphy Show. At peak health, that is just the slowest you will die. It's Friday Eve on the Libertarian Lunch.
Huh. Another version of that was before we realized he was a skeeve, Louis C.K., who's not for everyone, very blue. But he did a bit about how most people don't know when they're going to die. And for most of us, at best, it's, I think this is it. I think this is it. That's the last thing you think. For the vast majority of us, at best, that's what you get.
Yeah.
And I think he was talking about going down in a plane crash where it's rare that you have awareness that this is it. So you're right. You never know when the pinnacle is going to be of life's health because by the time you reach it, you're already going downhill again. That's the idea. All right. We don't want to go downhill on the radio show, so let's talk about this real quick. We're going to talk with David Corlew in just a couple of moments, 12:35 today. David, of course, is the head honcho over there. He would not say it this way, but he's the head honcho over there at the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. He and Charlie, longtime manager of Charlie Daniels, and he and Charlie put together the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. I wanted to make sure, and we were either going to do it tomorrow or today, and he was available today. I wanted to make sure that we spent a little time with David, and we will, 12:35, talking about Veterans Day and what it means to remember the veterans every day, not just on one day, but on this one particular day. I've told many stories in the past about my experiences. I've never served in the military, and I honor those that have, and I honor those that do, and I thank them on a regular basis because they give me the ability to engage not only in a freedom of movement and a freedom of speech, but they gave me my career. My career is the free speech business. And without those that protect us and hold the line against oppression or fascism or totalitarianism or dictator, without all of that, we don't have any of this. And we ought to remember it. And we'll remember it tomorrow, and we'll remember it later on today. Before we get to that, I'm hesitant to get into the story involving Jillian Ludwig that we talked about quite a bit yesterday, only because I know it's going to, or at least I hope, that I can initiate some conversation with you regarding this situation. And I don't want to start the conversation and then have to stop the conversation and talk with David Corlew. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to do that in the 1 o'clock hour. But it is on certainly my radar screen that the young lady, 18-year-old Jillian Ludwig, after being rushed to Vanderbilt Medical Center, she was found Tuesday afternoon at about 3:30 in the afternoon, lying on the ground at Edge Hill Community Memorial Gardens Park. She had been shot in the head roughly an hour before. The individual believed to have shot her, and I think he's admitted as much, is Shaquille Taylor. It is a tragedy. It is a tragedy that needs to be highlighted, not just locally but nationally. We need to ask a few questions regarding our elected officials and regarding those who are in charge of crime and punishment in the city of Nashville, in Middle Tennessee, and across the state. Because, by God, this family deserves answers. Especially considering how many opportunities the authorities, the powers that be, had to stop this, whatever he is, madman, mentally disturbed human, whatever you want, however you want to describe him, an individual that was a clear, real, and present danger to the general public was allowed out of jail at least twice to walk the streets and ultimately to kill Jillian Ludwig. And we'll talk about it in the 1 o'clock hour, and I'm curious your thoughts about who's to blame here. Because the family and the community deserve answers. Also on the docket today, James Comer is, he's looking for answers himself. Comer, who is chairman of the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, is now calling to the stand, to the witness table, Hunter Biden and his business associate, Rob Walker, as well as President Joe Biden's brother, James Biden, to appear for depositions. Comer said he will request other family members and Biden family associates appear for transcribed interviews, including Sarah Biden, Haley Biden, Elizabeth Secundi, Melissa Cohen, and Tony Bobulinski. The House Oversight Committee has followed the money and built a record of evidence revealing how Joe Biden knew, was involved, and benefited from his family's influence peddling schemes. The incuriosity of the mainstream media should scare the hell out of you. They have picked sides, and they don't even hide it anymore. They picked sides a long time ago. The nature of the mainstream media is to be left of center. They've always been left of center. It was to our benefit that they felt the need to at least air an appearance of objectivity. They don't do that anymore. They ignore this story. This is imagine for a second, just a second, that this was Donald Trump. Oh, my goodness. I mean, hell, CNN can't stop talking about this stupid, ridiculous, nonsense trial in New York that's not even a criminal case. It's a civil case. Makes no sense. and will obviously be decided by a judge unfairly and ultimately appealed to a higher court and kicked out of court. My prediction. They won't stop talking about that. Can you imagine for a moment what the coverage would be if Donald Trump if his family, if Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka and Jared Kushner and whomever had engaged in this level of entanglement? Every time I bring up Joe Biden, Jim Biden, Hunter Biden, and the Biden family crime syndicate, every time a liberal communicates with me about Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner making a lot of money with the Saudi Arabians. Every single time. Because they engage in whataboutism. No, let's talk about this situation. Let's ask ourselves if Donald Trump had knowledge of and had benefited from entanglements with the Chinese, the Ukrainians, and potentially the Russians. Well, not even potentially. They got the kickback money from the mayor over there in Russia. I mean, come on, folks. It's difficult to talk to liberals about this because liberals don't know what to say about it. Talking to a leftist that wants to defend Joe Biden in this regard is similar to listening to the United States Senate try to get any information out of Alejandro Mayorkas. It's ridiculous. I heard Hand doing some of that earlier today. What a joke. It's not a disaster on the southern border? Have you been there? I was listening to Hand as he was, and good for him. You got to make fun of it. You got to make fun of it. Otherwise, you become me. You don't want to be me. Angry all the time, screaming all the time. You don't want to be this. I know it's an awful life. I feel like Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. It's just a horrible way to live. But you got to do what you got to do. If I got to drink unicorn blood, I'll drink unicorn blood. I mean, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. That said, you got to keep laughing to keep from crying. And I'll just tell you, like my good friend Jay St. Clair says, the 21st century has not turned out the way that I thought that it would. It just hasn't. Now, all of those things are on the docket today, and I will get to the debate last night. I'll just say this. I want to like Vivek. I thought it's Vivek. I want to like Vivek Ramaswamy. I do. And then he comes along and he does silly things like interview Alex Jones, and that makes it impossible for me. However, I did not watch the debate live because I saw no point in it. I did cover it after my wife went to bed and the CMA Awards were over. I watched the CMA Awards last night. So we'll get into the debate. I don't want to squirrel myself away from that. I do think that Ramaswamy scored some points. I think he was very pointed in his criticism of the mainstream media and Ronna McDaniel and the RNC. The RNC under the tutelage of Ronna McDaniel is an absolute joke. As an establishment, the Republican Party is an absolute joke. I get to say that because I'm not a part of the Republican Party, nor am I a conservative. I am a libertarian, a classical libertarian with a small L, meaning I don't belong to the Libertarian Party, nor do I smoke the weed. But I do believe in the basic libertarian philosophy of governance.
But you are okay if other people want to.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Do you. It's your body. It's not my body. You own you. I don't own you. Speaking of your body, your choice, Bella and I were talking about that on the loop last night as we were passing the Hustler Club.
Yeah, we were, weren't we?
We were. We were both true story, we were both commenting on how we had never been inside of the Hustler Club.
Yep.
And I said, well, I've never been inside of any of these places. And then Belle got really quiet in the passenger seat.
And I told you a story about my first girlfriend.
I never asked you. And if you want to know this story, just call Belle up and ask him. He'll tell you offline.
Don't.
Was she still attractive?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you saw her?
Yeah, she's in her 50s now. She's still attractive.
Well,
no, I think
she doesn't still work there, though.
Oh, no.
And She doesn't work at the Hustler Club.
No, it was a different one.
It was a different. Okay, we have to tell the story now. Can I tell the story for you? I can say it in 25 words or less.
Go ahead.
Bell found himself in a gentleman's club in the Nashville area. A woman approached him and said hello as if she knew him. Bell's like, wait, how does she know me? Have I seen her here before? And Bell realized that it was one of his first girlfriends.
Yeah.
Who was working at the establishment. Well, which I think says, I don't know, a decent amount about your pull back in the day.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you. I mean, it says some positive and some negative. Speaking of our travels to your home last night, how's the any news on the car?
No, I'm still waiting. It's depressing to think about.
I think we need some help. I don't. So I had a Ford F-150. Bell's car that he just got several months ago needs a transmission. Is that right?
I've made 2 payments on my new-to-me car.
2018.
And 2018 Ford Escape, and the transmission has gone out on it.
Oh, man.
And it's going to cost me, I paid $11,000 for the car.
$11,000.
It's going to cost me $7,000.
What?
To get the transmission rebuilt.
What?
For a car that I've made 2 payments on.
What?
$7,000.
What?
$7,000.
You keep saying 2,000 wrong.
No. It was $2,000 just to drop the transmission out and diagnose it and put it back in with no repairs.
Oh, so if they've dropped the transmission and magically there was nothing wrong with it and put it back in, it would still have cost you $2,000.
Yeah.
$7,000.
$7,000.
For an automobile that cost you $11,000.
Yes.
Is that right? I mean, and I'm not asking you because you don't know. I
don't know.
So with my F-150, I had a Ford F-150, a 2017 truck when I first came to Nashville, and it was doing something a little janky with the transmission. And I took it to Ford, and Ford told me that I was going to need a new transmission. It will not go out tomorrow or the next day, but it's going to go bad on you. I said, okay. They say, you also need rotors. I say, okay. How much is this going to cost me? I fully expected rotors on my truck and a new transmission to be $6,000. They said it was going to be $12,000. $2,000 of that for new rotors and $10,000 for a new transmission. And with that, I would have to wait somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 weeks. And I said, no, thank you. And I eventually traded the truck in, got value out of it, whatever. And I understand that we don't experience these things on a daily basis, but my goodness gracious, when back in our day, let's get on the front porch, everybody, get on the rocking chairs and start talking about the way things used to be. Back in my day, transmission rebuild was like a $2,000 job. Now it's a $7,000 job. I think Bell needs a second opinion. Anybody got it? 615-737-9986. Help that guy out. Help out. Hold on. I want him to hear this. He's on the phone with somebody. Everyone, help Bell out with his tranny issue. Bell's got a serious tranny problem, and he needs your assistance. 1223, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Your Health Plan Man and yourhealthplanman.com. We're in the open enrollment season, right? And there are kind of 2 kinds of open enrollment, as Pat Davis has described it to me. One for people in small businesses that have to buy their own medical insurance, and the other for those eligible for Medicare. Pat Davis is here and his team here to help you at yourhealthplanman.com. They can help with both. When planning health insurance for you and your family, you need to consult an expert. I consider Pat and his team to be a concierge, if you will, a concierge of information. And they have a cornucopia of selections. In other words, they don't lock into one health insurance program or plan because they can pick from any health insurance program or plan. That level of selection means that he has the flexibility to get you the lowest cost for what you need. That's going to save you money. This is so valuable to you and your family. Contact Pat Davis and his team at yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com. Let them know that I sent you along, and do this the right way for 2024 and beyond. I promise you, you can save a lot of money with Your Health Plan Man. Go to yourhealthplanman.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 12:28, almost 12:29. We are getting set to have a great conversation with David Corlew of the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. That's coming up in a couple of minutes. Have you seen the super text line, Bel K? I know you've been busy over there. It is blowing up.
No, I had to go down and
people.
get David. I've been out of the control room.
Blowing up with people that are wanting to help you. So you need to review some of this because there's a lot of good suggestions on the line. So I'm sorry, I just read one of them. Can I read what 9774 has said?
Is it about my girlfriend?
No, it's about your tranny.
Oh, tell me what's wrong with my tranny. It says
Bell blew a tranny in his car. Get this man some help.
I don't know you, and I'm leaving.
Transmission, Bell. Come on, man. Let's not trash the joint up. A lot of transmission problems are nothing more. Well, these are the suggestions we need to hear. A lot of transmission problems are nothing more than a clogged filter or a solenoid pack. I'd start YouTubing the symptoms and check what the fluid looks like. Well, they've already pulled it, right? It's out. Is that correct? Like what happened?
Yeah, there was some kind of a valve messed up or something, and it caused a fuel, or not a fuel leak, a fluid leak, which led to shavings coming off and mucking up the works.
Okay, so you've got metal in your transmission.
Yes.
That's bad. That's fatal. That's no good. All right, so that's where we're at. Anybody have any suggestions? Super text line is up and available, 615-737-9986. We'll do this when we come back. David Corlew's with us with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. Veterans Day is Saturday, and we'll talk about it next. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk for a moment about what you do when you're not watching or listening to Super Talk 99.7 WT. And I would encourage you to check out my friend Steve Abramowitz and the Mill Creek View, Tennessee podcast. I like Steve a lot. I met him during the initial phases of the Gabriella Hansen saga down there in Franklin. We met through that, but developed a friendship, and I really appreciate what Steve is doing with Mill Creek View. He's covering Franklin, Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee like nobody else. He does a lot of different things with the podcast, to include artists and authors, cultural figures, entertainment figures, sports figures, and of course, he talks politics quite a bit. They're frequently the number one show on politics on Podomatic. So if you're on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you stream, they are available. The podcast is there for you. And I know that I go to his publication every day. Steve is also editor and CEO of the Mill Creek View newspaper, they call it. That's at mcview.us. That's mcview.us. I encourage you to do that. You can find the podcast page right there. If you look hard enough, you can find Steve's interview with me. I think he did a pretty good job. I don't know so much about myself. Go to mcview.us. That's mcview.us. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. In the 1 o'clock hour, we will talk about the death of Jillian Ludwig. And I will ask a simple question. Who is to blame here? Obviously, the shooter is primarily to blame. But secondarily, who can we blame in the system for allowing this individual to be back on the streets? That's in about 30 minutes or so. We will discuss the debate last evening. 5 Republicans on the stage. Obviously, the big man was not on the stage. And we'll discuss his absence and who, if anyone, stood out from the rest. And we'll get into, in the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to do a little sheeing and shimming with the Biden administration. So they have a big new policy change regarding pronouns, because apparently we've solved every other world problem in existence, and now we're going to solve the problem of pronouns. So we'll do that coming up in just a couple of minutes. But it is always my pleasure. You know, I talk about how wonderful my experience has been moving to Nashville, and I mean this sincerely, and I'm not trying to get verklempt or sentimental or soppy here. But one of really high on the list is being able to meet David Corlew and tell people that I am in some way associated with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. And one of the reasons I love David is because the first thing I'm going to tell on him. The first thing he said to me is, man, I feel bad. I'm in here and all this other stuff's going on. You got so much to talk about. And I said to you, and I'll say it again publicly, there's nothing more important than talking about the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project and honoring our veterans and helping them when they get back into the United States. Thank you for everything you do. Good afternoon, sir. Hey, hold on. All that build up. Are you going to help me out? No, he's not going to help me. Hey, David.
Good afternoon to both of you, Belle, everybody here. You guys have been so supportive of the Journey Home Project. You guys have always been there. It's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood, and we have a journey here to be on and to continue. And I guess when I apologize, it's such a big news day. The young lady that passed away, that was shot, all that's going on. But I think the reason why I am here is because veterans are 10th page news right now. We don't consider a war going on. We think there's wars going on but there's somebody right now in the sand. Looking for bad guys, or standing post somewhere, or doing work in an office, but they're all serving us, and they signed on the dotted line, and that's my journey.
Well, and I bring that up not to embarrass. I mean, that's just the level of humility that you bring to this service is astounding, and I applaud it, and I thank you for it, because you and Charlie, I learned this early on when you told me about how all of this came about. It's a genuine love of the United States of America and a recognition, as you've said so many times, that, and Charlie said it, that, you know, there's a reason that we get to do this every day. There's a reason that you and I get to talk on the radio, 100,000 watts to thousands and thousands of people. And it's the men and the women that put on the uniform and protect us.
And there's been a big price that's been paid for that freedom. And I think we continue as a society to forget that or put that on the back shelf. It's the most important thing that I do every day besides taking care of my family, my worship, my spirituality, is that I'm going to get up every day and figure out what I can do to help vets. And I can't do that without the support and the brotherhood that I have with you guys, as well as a lot of the other people that help Journey Home Project and are part of it.
You know, I'm always not torn, but I have mixed emotions about Veterans Day. I mean, Memorial Day is obviously what it is. It is to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in service to their country. Veterans Day is it's a combination. We remember those who lost all. We remember those who sacrificed so much. We think about those who go through daily life struggles as a result of their service, but also it's a celebration of the men and women that keep us free. Do you look at it that way too?
I do, and I'm glad you brought that up. Being the person I am and doing what I do, I have a Title 38 U.S. code that comes with the government. I actually saw this. There's a Green Beret, former Green Beret, Herb Thompson, who is kind of a rock star in the military community. And he posted this. Veterans Day is next weekend, which he posted this last week, whether they served 2 years or 30 years, if they were a clerk or a special operator, whether they saw combat or not, if they were a pilot or a logistician, whether they went overseas or remained stateside, all served and all gave some. So if you left home to Fort Dix, New York, and served your whole time there, you were gone from your family, your life changed while you weren't there, your family had challenges, and you made that sacrifice to be away from the people that you love and love you. And you signed on the dotted line, which is signing a check that's payable up to your life.
You know, I occasionally tell this story, and I don't know if I've shared it with you, David, but I'll make it as succinct as possible for those who've heard it before. I had an opportunity just through work to go to D.C. annually for about 10, 11 years. And my wife, her grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel George Holy, served in the Navy and then for 2 years. And then when the Air Force was created in 1947, he went over to service in the Air Force and served for 29 years there. He's interred at Arlington National Cemetery. So we've had opportunity to go back on several occasions, took his wife to see his place of interment in the columbarium, and then we've gone back multiple times since then after the passing of his wife when she was interred. All that to say, Erica couldn't go with me 1 year. And, you know, if you're not engaged in an actual service, you're walking in, right, unless you have a disability. And so I got off of the metro and I walked in because Erica asked me to take some photos of George's resting place. And I walked, and you know how huge it is. For those that have never been, it is such a juxtaposition of beauty and sacrifice. And you'll never find a more emotional place in my view.
Agree.
And I walked and I saw this woman way off in the distance as I was walking, because, you know, these blocks are just enormous in the graves and the symmetrical geometric patterns. And I saw her in the middle of one of the blocks of grave after grave after grave. And she's sitting there in the middle and she's on a blanket. She looks to be, you know, once I got closer, I recognized that she was probably, I don't know, 30. And I recognized that she was the wife of a serviceman that had lost his life. And I walked on. I left her be. I walked to the columbarium, which was some ways away. I spent a little time there. I come back maybe an hour and a half later, David. And there she is. And I realized, and it gets me broken up every time, that I get to walk back to my family and I get to walk away from the pain that she faces every moment of her life. And it's a sacrifice that we need to talk about more, and that's the family that sacrifices when those men and women in service do give the ultimate to their country.
I was just there. I was there last weekend, and every time I go, I went with one of my really good buddies, Joel Pruitt, who's a former Green Beret special operator. 20 plus years, went up there, met a former commander here at Campbell. But we go over to Arlington, and there it is. It's the most emotional place for anybody, as you said, that goes there. But we go visit Jason Brown, who's a staff sergeant who lost his life in 2008. But we went to visit some graves, some sites, but everywhere you turn, you see a brother, a sister, a family, a wife. I went up there during Memorial Weekend with the Gold Star organization, went up there and saw women that literally have blankets where they lay down beside the gravesite. So it's very moving. Those have passed, those that have gone on. We honor them on Memorial Weekend. But it's my journey today and is going to be for a while is to bring attention to those who not necessarily went to combat but did sign on that dotted line. Because every time I run into a lot of these guys and they go, oh, well, I didn't do anything. I didn't leave. I go, no. You signed that contract, same contract the operators signed and the SEALs signed and everybody when they began their journey. They just decided to train more, stay in longer. But I want to encourage everyone out in audience, your audience, and all over that if you served, if you signed on that dotted line and you have an honorable discharge, you need to hold your head up high. None of those teams can operate without the team.
It never, until just this moment, it never occurred to me what you're saying, that for those who, call it what you will, just were lucky enough or blessed enough, or it just so happened that there was not active duty service or overseas service at the time that they were in, that they feel somehow lesser than?
Yeah. They have that, and my buddy this morning told me, and again, he was a 20-year operator, and he looks him in the face and he goes, hold your head up and be proud of what you did for us, because we could not have done our job without you. So if you did it, then own it. If you signed on the dotted line and you served, own it, be proud of it. We cannot do these overseas missions and stuff without you.
Are we seeing, obviously in the aftermath of the combat actions that we've seen over the last 20, 25 years, we see a lot of service members that are home with visible scars of war, loss of limb, or other types of things that you can see. More than that, there are the unseen wounds. We talk about PTSD a lot. Do you encounter that as much as we have in the past 5 or 10? Is that still an ongoing issue? Is it the most pressing ongoing issue?
Well, we see I said the other day, the loss of limb thing has become so common that we've got guys that are operating now that are out on the front lines still fighting with one leg or a loss of an arm because they've been able to go back and requalify. So not to make that anything less than what it is as tragic as to lose a limb. But our issue is it's great for those that come back and do it to face a friend, a family member, then say, I've got a problem, I need help. But we call that the 1,000-pound phone. That's the issue of these guys that have buried this stuff, and they continue to live in a civilized world and try to live a civilian life. And it's one of our focuses now is helping that transition from being someone special. You're someone special when you're in the military and you serve that time, and then one day you get out and you're on the street and you're just a regular guy. And that's hard.
I never thought of this way either, but hearing you talk, it occurs to me that it's almost like some of these, and some people come back and they reintegrate and they do well, and God bless them and thank you. But for some, it's so much more difficult, and it's like they're teetering on a cliff, and they're hanging on. They're not falling over, but if they do fall because of a lack of willingness to pick up the phone or a lack of observation from those loved ones around them, when they fall, that's what creates our veteran homeless problems. That's what creates the sad, the addiction issues that we face. And if we can catch them before they fall, I feel like it's so much easier, not easier, but it's such less of a painful experience maybe for them, I don't want to presume, to get them the help that they need. And that's why it's the 1,000-pound phone, right? If they would just pick that phone up, or if someone would reach out to them prior to hitting rock bottom, it's so much of an easier situation, it would seem.
Well, it goes against everything that they've been trained.
Right.
Surrender is not in their vocabulary. So to surrender to what some call a disease, addiction, to surrender to show weakness, They don't do that. It's the hardest thing to do is to say, I need help. And so that's why the buddy system, and we encourage everybody, please call somebody, pick up the phone, talk to somebody. It's the basis of all rehabilitation, whether it's addiction, whether it's you lose a loved one. You got to talk about it. You got to get this stuff out, and this is stuff that's buried. Sometimes we've got some programs where we work on long-term guys, especially the Vietnam veterans. And these guys had to bury it, and it's been buried for 20, 30 years. So it's a challenge. So everybody, again, I'm just going around waving the flag saying, man, if you got a veteran friend, check on them.
Thank them. Ask them how they're doing.
Thank them. And thank their families.
That's right.
It's thank a veteran and their families.
Steve wants to join in on the conversation out of Gallatin. Steve, you're on with David Corlew and Matt Murphy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having this discussion. Again, multifaceted. We do talk about the people in the spotlight, the people behind the scenes. Just like a diamond has multi-facets, some facets catch the light, some facets display the light, some facets are just holding underneath on the mount of the diamond and the jewelry. Sorry I'm taking that so long to explain it, but my brother is a Desert Storm veteran. He was only in for 4 years. It took him forever to get the diagnosis for Gulf War syndrome, but the hardest part before that happened, it took him a long time to update his DD-214 because it just said Asian Theater Service. It didn't have specificity for the Gulf War. And partly was, I guess it was 15 more long years ago, it took John McCain getting involved in his office and his people to get his stuff process paperwork. And he was a great veteran, obviously an advocate for veterans. But my question, I guess, is, in all these facets and all of these underlying currents that happen, who are the best people locally and maybe in the regionally that are helping just get people the correct specificity on their designations on their DD-214 so they're eligible for these benefits so they can correlate maybe symptoms or correlate the fact that they were there to get the treatment that they need or just to get the correct acknowledgement that helps put them in the right path to get the veteran assistance that they need.
Is it Steve?
Yeah, Steve.
Steve, you have called the right guy. At MTSU on campus is the Charlie and Hazel Daniels Veterans and Family Community Center. And it is the most comprehensive veterans center. It's 6,000 square feet. That's what they do. They specialize in evaluating your benefits, your DD-214. A lot of people have not been given the correct disability rating that they deserve and that they need. You can reach out to that. Go online. It's the Charlie and Hazel Daniels Center. We do everything there from helping with the stuff with your brother up to we have an employment agency. We have a direct teleconference center to the VA in D.C. So we get a face. We don't get a recorded verse. So that's where it's open to the families. It's open to your brother. They'll go up, and not only that, if he needs help with a resume, anything, we're there. And if not, call me.
I did not hang up on you, Steve. We lost your signal, but I hope you caught all of that. If you did not, call back, and we'll catch up offline. Obviously, the Charlie Daniels JourneyHomeProject.org is the best way to get a hold of you guys. What's your final message to the veterans and all others listening right now?
My message, first off, is we're working on our website. We, like everybody else, from time to time. If you have any problem, write me at david@thejourneyhomeproject.org. Write me personally, and I will put you in the right direction. But I ask that you donate. If you can't donate, I ask that you pray. I ask that you reach out.
That's wonderful.
Period.
That's exactly right. And I just thank you, as I always do, and I remind you, as I always do, that I don't like you as much as I like Tuffy. So I'm just, it's a reality.
Well, Tuffy's getting used to this place now. He kind of likes it here.
We like him being here. He's our little mascot. Thank you, David, for
thank
everything.
you, brother.
There's David Corlew with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. Back in a moment.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Gaza, pauses are being put in place to allow civilians safe passage. It follows a month of airstrikes and weeks of ground battles as Israel tries to eliminate Hamas following the Hamas attacks in Israel. Talks are still ongoing to free hundreds of hostages held by Hamas.
The White House said Thursday Israel will begin to implement 4-hour pauses in areas of northern Gaza every day starting today, with an announcement made 3 hours ahead of time. National Security spokesman John Kirby.
We've been told by the Israelis that there will be no military operations in these areas over the duration of the pause, and that this process is starting today.
Asked today if he had asked the Israeli prime minister for a 3-day pause in strikes on Gaza, President Biden said yes, and that he's asked for an even longer pause. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Happening now in Illinois, President Biden visiting Belleville, northwest of Chicago. He is touting union jobs and meeting with United Auto Workers and leaders at the reopening of a Stellantis plant following the auto strike. An investigation underway into 2 states after election officers received suspicious envelopes.
Officials in Washington state and in Georgia are acknowledging suspicious envelopes with powdery substances in them have been arriving. Spokane police say one was sent to the Spokane County Elections Office. It was negative for chemical or biological agents and explosives, but it was positive for fentanyl. Police say other offices in Washington state had received similar envelopes. In Georgia, the FBI says letters were sent to ballot counting centers nationwide, including in Atlanta. Alex Stone, ABC News.
If you're thinking about a career in commercial aviation, it's a good time to be a pilot. American Airlines regional carrier PSA says it's offering a $250,000 sign-on bonus for captains who will leave cargo carriers like FedEx and UPS. It comes as UPS is starting to offer buyouts to some pilots due to reduced shipments. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. I like to say if your heater's not ready, you need to call Jeff Eddy. Now, we're getting to a point where, if you've not called for a maintenance call, I mean, you can always call for a maintenance call. Don't get me wrong. But there comes a point where that unit is going to be working pretty hard because it's getting pretty cold outside, and that's coming right around the corner. I understand that it's been 80 degrees the last couple of days, but that's a tricky time for your system as well. Because you're turning on the AC and then you're turning on the heat in the morning to break the chill. It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to maintenance. It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to repair. And Jeff Eddy has kind of become the go-to guy for second opinions. I think he should be your first opinion guy. But if you've gotten someone telling you that you need a new unit, why not get a second opinion at a low cost to you to find out if that's so or if you can extend the life of your heating unit for the next several years, because that's a lot of money. Now, when it's time, and they're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem at Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. EfficientHVAC.net is the website for more information, EfficientHVAC.net, or give them a call. Schedule an appointment today, 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Thank you much. It is hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased to have you with us. Whatever time you're able to give us, I'm appreciative of it. I'm appreciative of David Corlew. If you missed any of that conversation, it'll be up on the podcast section of the website, 997WTN.com. And we need to, as I give Bel K work to do, we need to be better about, for the television side of things, slicing those things up and presenting them in more snack-sized morsels on the Talk TV side of things. Maybe we can do that as well. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. If you're on the television side of things, hello and welcome in. On radio on 99.7 FM or on any of our streaming platforms. Anywhere you go to stream, you can find us. Just type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN or WWT. Add an extra W in some cases, and that'll get you where you need to go. Take us where you want. We are on the go. We are mobile with you throughout the course of the day and live and local all day long, starting with Dan Mandis, Chris Hand, yours truly, and Brian Wilson. No Brian today, Pamela Furran for Brian. So what a special guy David Corlew is, and what a special organization the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project is. And I will not belabor the point. Just please go over there, and especially on the day before Veterans Day, let's try to remember those who have served in a positive way. I get sentimental about it. I've not served my country in that capacity. I try my best to serve my country in this capacity, but I could never hope to serve in the manner that the men and women who don the uniform have, and so I try to honor them as best that I can. We do that with an annual dinner with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, and I do that by giving, and I hope that you do as well. That said, David brought gifts, Belle. You want just black, green, or red. That's just what you need to.
Green. I like that color, green.
Yeah, well, it's yours. Mac Morey has to go with red because I told David asked me sizes, and I told him XL for you and I because although both of us you've lost more weight than me, but both of us have lost weight. I think I'm an XL guy. I like them a little loose.
Yeah,
and fair.
Mac would have picked red anyway because that's Chiefs color.
True that, and I got him a schmedium because I think that's right. Because Mac is a wee man. I mean, not wee in spirit.
No, he's not. He's young and still in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, he's he likes to wear those tight, schmediums. I thought he'd look good in that. So
he likes to show off his abs through the T-shirt.
And why wouldn't he? Young buck. All right. Let's talk about Jillian Ludwig. Who are we blaming here? I mean, is there not someone that we can go to explain to us exactly what happened and why? Instead, what I find is that everyone that I've spoken with about this matter since we first brought it up to you yesterday points fingers at other people. And meantime, a woman is dead. an 18-year-old girl, woman, young adult, is dead. Jillian Ludwig was rushed Tuesday afternoon at about 3:30 to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. She had been shot in the head about an hour previous. She was found on the ground at the Edge Hill Community Memorial Gardens Park where she was walking. Ludwig was a graduate of Wall High School. She lived in Belmar, New Jersey, according to her profile, her public profile online. Metro Nashville police announced that she had passed away this morning. She remained in extremely critical condition for over 24 hours, and now she is dead. Belmont University President Greg Jones sent a campus-wide email learning the news. This is a lot for us to process. We grapple now with grief, anger, anxiety, and a strong sense of fear in the face of senseless violence. Jones then went on to reiterate a story from an author who wrote about grief and talked about the wounds and unanswered questions. The individual believed to be responsible for the death of Jillian Ludwig is a man by the name of Shaquille Taylor, 29 years old, was arrested and charged with aggravated assault and evidence tampering after a confidential informant video evidence and his own alleged confession linked him to the Tuesday shooting. Police say Taylor appeared to be shooting at a nearby car when a stray bullet struck Ludwig. Just that act of senseless and random violence should infuriate you. The idea that our newly sworn-in mayor is not being more upfront and forceful about getting police officers on the streets where they need to be. Maybe he is, and I'm not hearing him. I don't know. We have him scheduled, by the way, Freddie O'Connell. I've asked him on a number of occasions if he would come back on as mayor now that he has been sworn in. I'm not afraid to talk to people that I disagree with or who might disagree with me about the direction of Nashville, this community, this city, and we'll do so with Freddie O'Connell so long as he is willing. And he is willing. However, I was told just yesterday that his schedule does not allow him on until the week after Thanksgiving. We'll speak to him then. This is shameful and should be noted as such. And I want to know what we're going to do about it. Remember the meme, if you go online, it's a GIF or a GIF. I can go either way on that. I'm flexible. I don't mind. I'm bilingual when it comes to which way do you go, Bell? GIF or GIF? When you're talking about this cute little, it's a GIF?
It's a GIF.
Is that like, could it go either way, or is that the way that I'm supposed to pronounce it? Or do you know?
That's the way you're supposed to pronounce it. It can go either way, but the people that say GIF are wrong, and they're trying to talk about peanut butter instead of a visual depiction of something.
You know, I don't know why this occurs to me to say it to you now, Bell, but I feel compelled to do so. Choosy moms.
Choose GIFs?
Choose GIF. That's you stole my punchline, jerk. Choosy moms choose GIF. But there's the GIF of the three Spider-Man. Everybody's pointing at everybody, and he and him and them. Everybody's pointing at everybody else about why this guy was on the streets. And you and I and every person listening to this show should be mad as hell. And we should demand answers for the Ludwig family. We should demand answers for Jillian Ludwig. If you missed it, Shaquille Taylor was charged in April with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. According to Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk, he was ultimately found by 3 doctors to be, quote, incompetent to stand a trial. However, we are told, he did not meet the state standards for involuntary commitment. Now, I want to note here as a side note, And you regular listeners, you P1 listeners, you know how frustrated I have gotten when we discuss mass shootings, when we talk about, invariably, we talk about two issues. We talk about guns or gun control because the political left wants to go after the guns, which ultimately don't have any say in the matter. And then we talk about mental health. And I've become frustrated because I think mental health is a refuge of the right politically in the same way that gun control is a refuge of the left. We talk a good game about it, but we don't do anything about it. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. How in the world is it? Whose office should I go to ask this question? How in the world is it that someone can be found incompetent to stand a trial, but they are not incompetent enough for involuntary confinement? How is that? So the same rules that would declare someone doesn't have an ability to stand trial because of one would presume, a lack of understanding of right and wrong. Well, if you have a lack of understanding between right and wrong, you ought not be on the streets because you won't have an understanding of right or wrong when you encounter people in the park or people driving down the street. According to officials and a report by the Tennessean, to be involuntarily committed, a person must be found by two doctors to suffer from a severe mental illness that causes a person to be a substantial risk of serious harm to themselves or others. There also must be no other less restrictive measures than commitment. Now, Taylor was found to be unable to stand a trial for an aggravated assault charge because he was deemed to be incompetent. I want to know what the standards of incompetency are in this community. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell, mentioned by me previously, has called for a, quote, renewed conversation about limiting gun access for people known to be a threat to the community. Well, obviously, we need to have that guy. If you are found to be guilty of a charge like aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, then that would be a trigger for you, no pun intended, to not be able to have a weapon any longer. Secondarily, if you're found to be incompetent to stand trial for your crimes, that ought to be a trigger that you don't get to have a gun either. But it's not about gun control for me. It's about this gap where the DA says, well, he can't stand trial because he doesn't understand the charges against him or he doesn't understand right and wrong, versus, oh, we can't confine him involuntarily. They let him go, guys. They just let him go. He was charged with a crime, and they let him walk. They dropped the charges. Does this not infuriate anyone else? Metro Nashville Police say they're working with Funk's office to pursue higher charges against Taylor now that Ludwig has died. Well, if he's incompetent, I mean, I don't mean to seem obtuse here, but if he's incompetent to stand trial for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, how is it that he wouldn't be incompetent to stand trial for murder? And what are you going to do now? Huh? You going to let him go now? Everyone involved in this should stand before the Ludwig family and explain themselves. Every single one of them. The DA, the doctors, the courts, everyone, the judge that dismissed the case, dismissed the charges, every one of them. Who let this dude out after he stole a truck? Oh, yeah. Haven't gotten to that part of it. In April, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, they let him go. In September, he steals a truck. And they bonded him out for that, too. $20,000 bond. As of yesterday, and I don't know if the murder charge changes things, how about this to add insult to injury? The guy, aggravated assault, gets let go. They drop the charges. He goes on to steal a truck. They give him a $20,000 bond. He posts bond, gets out of jail, and then doesn't show up for his court appearance for the stolen truck. Yet, as of yesterday, they had put a bond on him, $280,000. Now, no one is suggesting that he has the ability to pay that, but why in the world would you allow someone a bond who has already skipped a court appearance? Jason writes in, and I think he's exactly right. While the Ludwig family, I am certain, is focused on their grief and the trauma of learning that their 18-year-old little girl is dead, I hope they sue the crap out of the city of Nashville. Because Nashville deserves it. The DA deserves it. We deserve better than Glenn Funk. And he can blame the state legislature all he wants, which is what they're trying to do. They're trying to lay blame at the legislative feet, saying that, oh, this is a loophole, and they need to solve the loophole, and there was nothing else that we could. There was nothing else that you could do? Come on now.
There was somebody on the super text line earlier, and I can't find it because it's just been so active, but they were talking about a specific facility here in Tennessee that is used to house mentally ill people that can't stand trial. So if that facility actually exists and he's describing it properly, why was this person cut loose instead of put in that facility?
I don't know. What they're telling me makes no sense. And we wouldn't know anything. How many of these people are there? That's what I want to know. Right? We wouldn't know a damn thing about this had he not shot and killed Jillian Ludwig.
Which is the worst possible way to find out about it.
That's right. So I want to know how many of these people have been found by some doctors. Who are these doctors? They need to stand before the people of Nashville and the Ludwig family and explain themselves. How many people are they just saying they're incompetent to stand trial and they just let them go and drop the charges? How many? If Shaquille Taylor is one, I want to know what the number goes to. I want to know how many people Glenn Funk has allowed to walk because some doctor says that they're incompetent to stand trial. How many more, Glenn? How many more? Is this the only one? Are there more? How many? How many of these people are walking around because you don't have the ability to prosecute the crimes that they commit? And I'm angry. And you should be too. It's 124 on Super Talk. I'll tell you what, I'm excited. I'm not angry about this whatsoever. I'm excited about the fact that I've lost over 36 pounds. And, you know, here's the reality. I talked to Rachel about a month and a half ago, and I said, Rachel, actually, this was a couple of weeks ago, but it was about the last month and a half. And I said, Rachel, my birthday happened and an out-of-town trip for about a week happened, and I lost my focus. And she said, Murph, I do this for a living. I'm your nutritionist. I am your dietitian. You don't need to tell me. I understand that it happens, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to get you back focused and back ready to lose even more weight. That's what I love about the PhD program. Never do they judge you. They're always supportive. They are on your team when it comes to your weight loss journey. And they understand, as dedicated as you are to losing the weight, as I am, because I want to get fit, I want to get in shape in my 50s, they understand that life happens. And sometimes those little slips happen. Well, they're there to get you back on track. They're there to support you. And the program itself works. Men lose between 3 and 5 pounds, women between 2 and 3 pounds. Let me tell you something, folks. It's so simple. It does work, and even with a slip here or there, you can get back on track and lose the weight in front of the holidays, and that's what I want you to do. Go to myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com. Don't forget about the PhD guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your goal weight by the end of your program, they'll continue to coach you for free until you do. myphdweightloss.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you. Who do we blame? That's the question. Super Talk 99.7 WTN as we continue on episode 452 of the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for streaming us wherever you go. I mentioned to Dan Mandis the other day, you can take Mandis into the shower. You could take me into the shower if you shower in the middle of the day. You can take us anywhere you go on your streaming platforms. Just type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and wherever you are.
Dan takes you into the bathtub.
I told Mandis in a meeting the other day that he showered with me, and it made him very, very uncomfortable.
Good, because I had to call and talk to him. I think it was Monday, and guess where he took the call?
From the tub?
From the tub.
I think the boss lied to me too, because he called me. We were talking, and I could hear the echo. I can't prove this, but I said, "Are you in the tub?" And there was a pause. He goes, "No, I'm in the garage." And I don't believe.
Not buying it, Dan.
I don't believe him. Anyway, on more serious things, what do you know? What do you think? Who is to blame? Jillian Ludwig is dead, and I want some answers. Let's start. I lost line 2 was go to line. All right, Steve is on line 1, calling out of North Carolina. Steve, thank you for your call. How are you?
Hey, good, Matt. You've done a really good job since you've come to WWTN. I moved out of Nashville too late.
Well, thank you. You're very kind.
So, at any rate, I've known Mr. Funk for over 30 years. I'm a retired Metro Police officer. I've worked cases where he's been the attorney. Years ago, he represented me in a case. He's a very good attorney, but what you have to understand about Mr. Funk is he's a political animal. That is his nature, and he made his bones as a attorney representing all of the drug dealers in Nashville, and he made a lot of money. They used to keep him on speed dial for that. Well, when he decided to run for district attorney, he used the turnout in the black community, the minority community, and the high crime community to get himself elected as DA. The opinion among at least the retired officers that I know is we don't hold him in very high esteem, and we were kind of anticipating that something eventually might come back to bite him in the butt. And I think this case might be just such a case. If a district attorney wanted to, in other words, if they had the motivation, he would have had the legal tools to keep this guy locked up. There's not a doubt in my mind. So,
and Steve, what you just said, I think, drives to the heart of my anger on this, because everyone wants to point fingers, and Funk wants to say, well, what was I supposed to do? The doctors said that he couldn't stand trial, so I couldn't go to trial with him. But the doctors said that we couldn't keep him. So, he wants to blame everyone. And then, even by extension, I hear people from his office blaming the General Assembly. Everybody wants to blame everybody else. And I have a difficult time believing that, as you just said, that if Glenn Funk was dedicated to the cause of making sure this guy stayed behind bars, that he wouldn't have stayed behind bars.
Well, unfortunately, just like our situation nationally, ultimately the problem lies with the voters that put him in office. And he is an elected official, and he did win a countywide election. I'm not up on the process for, potentially trying to remove him, but, you get what you elect. And the city of Nashville has to come to grips with that. And now they are. So, I don't live in Nashville anymore, but most of my friends and, people that I care about are still there. And I keep tracking Nashville very carefully, especially since the Covenant stuff happened. And it's just very disappointing.
It's sad. Thank you for the call, and thank you for the insight into the district attorney. 133 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Quick timeout. Back with more calls in a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show in progress. Pamela Furr is in for Brian Wilson. He's recovering nicely from a surgical procedure. Thank you all for asking. One big happy family at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pamela will be here from 3 until 7 this afternoon. Look forward to that conversation. Look forward to some news from Mac Maury back in the newsroom and our conversation with you. I promised I'd get back to your phone calls. We're discussing the death of Jillian Ludwig and who's to blame. Obviously, the person primarily to blame is the individual that pulled the trigger, who was apparently shooting at cars and accidentally, I guess we're to believe, shot and killed Jillian Ludwig. No word on, well, does it matter who the car? I don't know that it matters who was in the car, but maybe some of those details will come out. What we do know, if you're just joining us, catch up real quick. Taylor was previously charged with aggravated assault in April, and a lot of excuses coming out of the Nashville District Attorney's Office as to why he was not prosecuted in that crime. It was ultimately found that three doctors, I want to know who these doctors are. I think we deserve answers, don't you? Don't you think the Ludwig family deserves that? Who are these doctors? And by what standard did they determine that he was incompetent to stand trial? And why did that standard not meet the state standard for involuntary commitment? Why do these two things not jive? Now, apparently the district attorney's office is pointing at the General Assembly. Well, if there's blame to go around at the General Assembly level, I'm willing to lay it. But I think as a community, we ought to demand answers and ask ourselves if this is something that we're going to put up with, where people get charged with crimes and they're just let go. Charges dismissed. Oh, no, it'll be fine. He's learned the error of his ways. David is next. Hey, David, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for taking the call.
Yeah, of course.
Back in I grew up here since the 60s. Back when I was growing up, there was Central State Insane Asylum. It was across from the airport. I knew people that got sent there. That was closed in 1999. Why was that closed? You know, I believe society has made it, the stigma of mental illness, well, they couldn't help it, We shouldn't stigmatize people by putting them in an asylum, So the people are to blame.
Well, I understand, and David, thank you for the call, and thank you for a little bit of the historical education regarding, mental institutions in the state of Tennessee. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, my brother and I would joke because my sister, my eldest sister, I have an older brother, older sister. And I think I have this right. My sister was born in Milledgeville, Georgia. I was born in Thompson, Georgia. I forget where I think my brother was born in Macon. And Milledgeville was where the state mental institution was, which has since been closed down in Georgia. In my time in Alabama, I learned that Bryce Hospital, that was the name, was a mental institution that was outside of Tuscaloosa. And I remember, you make the jokes of, well, they put it right next to Tuscaloosa because that's where all the crazy Alabama fans go. Ha, ha, ha. I don't know that we want to go back or are prepared to go back to the concept of involuntarily confining individuals in a permanent fashion to mental institutions in the ways that we used to do it. But we need to talk about it. We need to talk about better confining individuals that are criminally ill to prevent this. 0680, and I would be interested in looking this up for myself, not that I don't trust 0680, but 0680 says Clinton was the one that stopped funding for mental facilities in the 1990s. 4076 says Roll Tide. Roll Tide indeed. 4104, he was trying to kill someone in the car. Obviously, he was trying to kill somebody. He will be charged or ought to be charged with murder for indiscriminately firing a gun toward a car. Just because he has bad aim or missed should not diminish that. Mark is next in Nashville as we continue on calls, 615-737-9986. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm furious. I mean, this is just tragic. I mean, unbelievable. And, you got a repeat offender that is allowed to do this. Now, you kind of hit the head on the nail earlier, and took some of the wind out of my sail here. But logically now, he can't be tried for this because he's incompetent. So you can't convict him now because then it looks bad for the DA. So
well, and no, you bring up an excellent point. Let's talk about this for a moment. I'll let you finish your point there, Mark. But and it's one that I kind of nipped around the edges on a minute ago. So
right.
3 doctors found this individual incompetent to stand trial for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So would he not then be incompetent to stand trial for murder? Right? If he was incompetent then, is he not incompetent now? Well, what are you going to do? Because then you said, so do the same rules not apply now? I'm not saying they should, but the DA has to explain why the DA doesn't have to let this guy go.
I'd like to see the DA address this to the Ludwig family. I really would. And now I'm doing some reading on it, and, Channel 4 saying that he's known about this and knew that this was going to happen. Well, if he knew it was going to happen, why isn't he sounding any alarms? Why isn't he addressing it? Again, I know he's just trying to pass the blame, but ultimately he's responsible for it. And to let this guy off, he got off for this charge. I forget what it was exactly called, but this is the same charge he just got charged with for shooting this beautiful young woman. So now it's going to be upgraded to murder. So if she had lived, again, because it's murder now, does he get off? But he'd have to be off if she lived, because it's the same charge that he got off on for being...
Right, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, shooting somebody.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no... oh, sorry about that.
Unbelievable. No, it's just unbelievable. I'm sorry. It's just unbelievable that this has happened, and it's so tragic. It's so tragic.
Well, and it exposes either a flaw in the system or a flaw under the DA, Glenn Funk. And thank you for the call, Mark. 615-737-9986, either on the phones or on the super text line. So you understand the train of thought that we're going down, Mark and I? The DA arrests a guy, or the police arrest a guy. They charge him, whoever it is, they charge him with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He's in the system. Doctors in the system. I don't know exactly how this works. I would love to know exactly how this works. Doctors in the system interview him, examine him, and determine this person is incompetent to stand a trial. They cannot stand a trial against the charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Okay, well, then we need to keep him in a facility, right, in order to determine at some point whether or not he will be competent to stand trial against these charges? No. He does not meet the standard of involuntary incarceration in a mental facility. So what are we going to do? Well, he walks. He walks? Yeah, he walks. And a judge ultimately dismissed the charge. So will someone explain to me how this situation is different? He shoots and kills Jillian Ludwig. He goes into the system. The same 3 doctors find him incompetent to stand a trial. The same 3 doctors or other doctors say that he's not incompetent enough to be involuntarily committed to a mental facility. Why did Jillian Ludwig have to die to realize that this man was a danger to the community? That is the big question for Glenn Funk and for everyone else involved in this case. And if you charge him now, I mean, I'm not saying that I would want this to happen. You charge him now and say that he is competent to stand trial. If I'm his defense attorney, I'm like, whoa. You said he wasn't competent before. He's not competent now. You've opened yourself up to a quag. And someone needs to answer for it because a young woman is dead. And it won't get a lot of play in the news. We'll forget her name in 4 or 5 days because she's not local. And because she's white. She does not fit the narrative. I'm not afraid to say that. It's true. It's true. John is in Beech Grove. Next up. Hey, John, how are you? Thank you for calling.
You're welcome, sir. I'm doing well. Listen, one of the things I've been listening to you all here today, and I'm hearing people talk about the why is this guy not in a hospital somewhere? And I did a little digging around on the internet, and I come to find out that we shut down pretty much all of our mental hospitals about 3 decades ago. And the reasoning that I'm finding, and this is going through the American Medical Association's Journal of Psychiatry, through their site was, first off, we considered mental hospitals inhumane. I know we all have images of Bedlam and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, things like that where people were forced to do things that were, by today's standards, pretty inhumane. That was one reason. The other reason had to do with cost. Nobody wanted to spend money on the mentally insane because there's no money to be made, except through pushing psychoactive drugs on them, such as I can't think of any of them right now because I've never used them, but the drugs that you would give somebody who has a mental health issue. And they figured that, okay, we can give this to people and let them loose on the street, which brings up another problem about homelessness because a lot of these people had nowhere to go, no home to go to. So they ended up on the street. But in this gentleman's case here, and I use that term politely, I don't really consider him that great of a gentleman. You can't blame the police department for this. You can't blame the court systems. A jail is not some place to put somebody who's mentally insane or has a mental health issue. That's not fixing the problem. But we don't have a place to put them. We don't have a good place to put them. There's no hospitals. There's no money for psychiatric treatment. And I don't know who's going to pay for the drugs outside the taxpayer, and I don't think we want to spend that money either. So that's just pretty much all I wanted to say. That, and I'm really sorry that this woman had to die in this way, and we're having to have this conversation about mental health, but it is a problem that needs to be addressed in this country because we can look at states like California and San Francisco with their people on the street. That's a mental health issue. There's drug issues also, but there's mental health issues behind all this. So we need to come up with a plan, and we need to do so soon because this is not going to stop. And I just want to say thank you.
John, thank you. Thank you for your call, and thank you for your thoughts on this. Well spoken. 151, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Some breaking news from a political perspective. Out of Washington, D.C., it has been announced by Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, that he will not be running for re-election in 2024. Once again, Joe Manchin, a Democrat and long thought to be one of the more moderate Democrats in the United States Senate, and almost a swing Democrat vote in some ways, will not be running for re-election in 2024. One wonders if this opens up Joe Manchin for a possible run for president of the United States. Just thought I'd throw that note in there. We'll get back to more calls momentarily. It's 152 on Super Talk. Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to tell you that Kraft Body Scan reminds you that November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Many might not realize, although it's true, while there are fewer smokers nowadays in 2023, lung cancer is still a serious problem, serious enough to be the number one cause of cancer death in the United States of America, more than breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colon cancer combined. It's why the American College of Surgeons calls for all adults to take advantage of life-saving cancer screenings, CT scans, along the lines offered by Kraft Body Scan. My friends at Kraft Body Scan want you to get your screening done, and they don't want cost to be an issue. In other words, they're offering a scan for you and a loved one for just $149. These full chest CT scans are normally valued at $1,360 per person per scan. This scan takes just over 5 minutes and can detect even the slightest irregularity. You remain fully clothed, of course. The scan is read by a board-certified radiologist. You don't have to worry about getting undressed and putting on the gown or whatever. You don't have to do any of that. Let me tell you, I've done this, and it gives you such great peace of mind to know that everything's going A-OK with your heart and your lungs and other parts of your body. 615-436-1000 for more information, 615-436-1000, or go to Kraft Body Scan, spell Kraft with a C, craftbodyscan.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN winding down hour number 2, but never ye fear. Another hour to go before we hand off to the drive. No Brian today. Pamela in for the recovering Brian Wilson, and I'm certain that there will be an update in that regard. When we come back, we'll break down the debate, we'll break down the CMA awards, and continue to take your telephone calls on the death of Gillian Ludwig. It's all on the way. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here comes the news with Mac Morey right now.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 64 degrees, a cloudy day. Expecting some showers here later on this afternoon. Complete weather forecast just a few minutes away. A crime update in Tennessee. The man accused of shooting and now killing 18-year-old Belmont student Gillian Ludwig may face new charges now that Ludwig has died. Shaquille Leonard was shooting at a black sedan in the Edge Hill area, and a stray bullet pierced Ludwig while she was walking in a park. Leonard was ruled incompetent for trial back in April of this year for an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge. Leonard remains in jail on a $280,000 bond, and Ludwig's family says that losing their daughter will forever change the fabric of their lives. Right now in the nation's capital, with a potential government shutdown looming November 17th, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries held his weekly press conference on the issue. Im Nguyen.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says he has no plans on working with Republicans to fund the government and avert a government shutdown next Friday. When asked if a Republican proposed laddered approach, staggering the expiration dates for different services, has support from Democrats.
That is reckless and would only crash and burn the federal government. It's a non-starter.
Meanwhile, the Senate is urging for bipartisanship as the House scrambles to find new options.
And the FAA is forming a rulemaking committee to look at mental health among the nation's pilots. Alex Stone reports.
After an Alaska Airlines pilot allegedly tried to crash a plane full of passengers while feeling depressed, the FAA is now forming a committee to provide recommendations on breaking down the barriers that prevent pilots from reporting mental health issues. The FAA says it wants to increase mental health training for medical examiners, and it wants to hire more experts to decrease wait times for decisions on whether a pilot should be allowed to fly.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
You know, inflation is here. We recognize that, but it's not everywhere because I'll tell you, Mark and his team at Nashville Safe House, they have continued to keep the safe prices as low as possible with their incredible inventory of various safes. You know, they're the largest Browning safe dealer in the United States of America. That means they're the largest Browning safe dealer in the world. That means they're the largest Browning safe dealer in the universe, unless there's a planet with a lot of Browning safes that I don't know about. That said, they have more safes than you can possibly see in one day. I mean, really, honestly. Over 600 oftentimes in stock, always over 500 safes. And not just the Browning models, but they have the other brands that you've come to know and love, like Fort Knox, Champion, Superior, and the like. And I invite you to go by and find the safe that's right for you at the price point that's right for you. They don't let crackheads deliver your safe. They have professionals delivering your safe. And yes, they charge for that delivery instead of embedding it into the cost. Go by and see at NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's online, NashvilleSafehouse.com. Or go see Mark and his team at Nashville Safe House today. No sales tax on gun safes. Ask them how and why when you stop by. 4th Avenue South in Nashville, across from City Cemetery. It's Nashville Safe House. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Matt Murphy Show continues, 2:05. Happy to have you with us. Thank you for your time today. Whatever time you give us is valuable to you, and I appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your day, whether it's 5 minutes of the full 3 hours or maybe even longer than that, as we are information-fueled and opinion-driven all day long, starting with Mandis, going through Hand, Matt Murphy, and normally Brian Wilson. Pamela Furr, the redheaded stranger I like to call her because we don't see her very much anymore, is coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, subbing in for the recovering Mr. Wilson. So did we resolve anything with your tranny, Bell, with your tranny problem? Earlier today in the Libertarian lunchtime hour of the Murphy Show, we mentioned that Bell has a tranny issue, and I'm curious. Did Mac Morey hear about your tranny issue?
What? I'm uninformed.
Bell blew a tranny in his car.
Oh.
I don't know why that's funny. I don't know.
You're right. It's actually very.
I don't know
funny.
why
you're right. This is very serious.
And it's gonna end up costing him a lot of money.
Yeah, I've had actually a number of people have given me some things to check into.
Some tranny advice.
My group. I'm sorry, and it did. I can't help. I'm 12. I'm 13. My grandfather was a self-employed mechanic. All of my young life. He first worked at a road and construction company as the head mechanic there, but then he left that when my mother developed brain cancer to go out on his own. So he worked on heavy equipment, and he never called it a transmission. Now, this is long before you would be confused about what he called it a tranny.
Wow.
We got to do some. And so now thinking back on that, I just thinking about it. Come on, boy, get in the truck. We got to go see a man about a tranny. And, just pull that I could just go up. Yeah, that's exactly right. So anyway, but Bell, we wanted to try to solve that because I have a hard time believing that a 2018 Ford Escape transmission is $7,000.
Asinine.
It's insane.
Well, yours was going to be 10.
That's true. I just don't. When did it reminds me of when millions became billions. Remember, Mac's probably too young for this because billions have always been billions.
Yep.
But remember when people talk about making millions of dollars and that was a big deal, and now suddenly billionaires are the millionaires and millionaires that's nothing.
I just looked it up because I was curious about this from billion to trillion, and we're less than a decade from that, by the way. Trillionaires, that's happening very soon.
Trillionaires.
Just looked this up literally less than a week ago.
Have you ever looked at you need to look this up, the visualization of the difference between $100 and they go from $1 or $100. They show you $100 and then they show you a stack of $100. There's $10,000, and then they show you like $1 million, which you can still hold. You can hold in your hands. You'd have to have like a briefcase or something, but here's $1 million in $100 bills. And then to go from $1 million to $1 trillion, you need a warehouse. And this a million seconds versus a billion seconds versus a trillion seconds.
It's crazy.
It's difficult
all of
to
this
understand.
changed when Bernie Sanders stopped vilifying millionaires after he became one and only vilified billionaires from that point on. Then that's when billionaires became the evils.
And just for perspective here, like you're saying, Matt, 1 million seconds, 12 days. 1 billion seconds, 32 years. 1 trillion seconds, 31,688 years.
There you go. There was a guy at UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, some years ago that dedicated himself to counting to 1 million.
Wow.
I mean, he did it online. He did it for, I think, 10 hours a day. Every day, he would get up in the morning. He would start at like 8 a.m. in the morning, and for 10 hours a day, he would count.
Wow.
And he had a constant video stream of him doing it. You know how long it took him? I think it was like 3 months.
Wow.
It took him 3 months to count to 1 million. But if you think about it, I mean,
crazy.
689,142, 689,143, 689,144, 689,145, 689,146. And I mean, by halfway through, you would want to chop your tongue out. I mean, anyway. So yeah, I don't know when a $2,000 transmission job became a $7,000 transmission job. I'm sorry for you, Bell.
Sorry.
If anybody has any thoughts about any of this, hit Bell up because he needs some help, because that's a lot of money for anybody, especially someone as poorly paid as young Mr. K. I mean, well, what? I'm being honest. Truth. I'm being honest. Like I was honest with Bell this morning, and I said, did you get into bottle number 2? He said, yes, he did. And if you don't know what that means, you need to go on social media, on Twitter, formerly known as X, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and look at Bell's post from last night. All right, more of your thoughts on this tragedy that involved Jillian Ludwig, her death, and the authorities not really giving us a lot of answers as to how in the world this happened. We're told that Nashville authorities are now considering new charges against Shaquille Taylor, accused of shooting and killing a Belmont University student. Metro Nashville police are saying that Jillian Ludwig, who was shot in the head Tuesday afternoon near the university campus, has died, of course. We've talked about that. Shaquille Taylor is charged in connection with the shooting. According to the Metro Nashville Police Department, they say, we're in discussion with the district attorney's office concerning modified charges against Shaquille Taylor. So my question is, this legal loophole that Mr. Funk is talking about that allowed him to get out, why in the hell was this permissible? And according to WSMV Television, Channel 4, the DA, Glenn Funk, predicted a crime such as this would occur 12 days before Ludwig was shot. Funk spoke with WSMV4 Investigates for its investigation that showed hundreds of criminals in Nashville who can't be prosecuted because they are indeed deemed incompetent to stand trial. District attorneys are forbidden by the Supreme Court to prosecute those who are determined not fit to understand the trial process or the crimes they've committed. Their charges are then dismissed and they are released back out into the streets, and then they reoffend. Funk said it's unbelievably frustrating because we know there's going to be another victim in the next few weeks. He said that last week. And sadly, he was correct. State and federal law prohibit prosecution of persons found to be incompetent. Therefore, Judge Angelita Dalton was mandated to dismiss the case, Funk said. Because the doctors did not find Mr. Taylor met the standard for involuntarily committing him, he was released from custody. They just dropped the charges. Well, here's my question to Mr. Funk. Here's my question to Judge Angelita Dalton. Here's my question to the 3 doctors who determined that he couldn't understand the charges against him. What changes? What changes? Whether it's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon or murder, if he doesn't understand it, he doesn't understand it. What are you going to do about it now? Why can you prosecute now and you could not before now? It feels like a lot of people within the DA's office want to point fingers over at the General Assembly. What say you? James is next out of Trace. James, thank you for your call and thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, no problem, and thank you for taking my call. There's a lot of news today. I wanted to call you about the tragic death of this young lady. I personally I think your analysis is spot on. I don't know what the law is in Tennessee, but the the prosecutor ought to be recalled or whatever you do in Tennessee. I mean, he should be removed because he's put himself in a box. You're exactly right. What are they going to do? I mean, the first thing his defense attorney is going to say is, well, you said he wasn't mentally competent to stand trial, and now you're going to try him for murder. So that's not going to work. So, but the other thing I wanted to say was, a previous caller you said listed the reasons why we don't have places to put people who are mentally incompetent. One of the reasons he did not mention was a federal judge in the early 70s, and I remember this distinctly, I'm in my 70s now, ruled that you could no longer keep people in mental hospitals, mental institutions, and he basically closed them all. This was one federal judge, and he basically closed them all. And that's why all these people, that's when we started having all the problems with homeless people that are mentally ill, a lot of them. I won't say most of them, but a lot of them. So a lot of this has to do with the federal courts passing laws. I mean, he just said, can't do it anymore. They shut them all down. I lived in Mississippi at the time. They tried to shut down the Mississippi-run mental institution, and they let a whole bunch of them out.
Well, we need to relook at it, James. I mean, we've got to reexamine where we are regarding involuntary incarceration, and there has to be a system by which you can involuntarily incarcerate people, and James, thank you for the call. I got to scoot. I appreciate you dialing in. There has to be a way to do these things, to get them off the streets or out of a line of fire, so to speak, potentially causing a danger to themselves or to other people, most importantly to other people, obviously, and to themselves. But give them an opportunity to demonstrate that they are no longer a danger to themselves or other people. But here's the reality. This is not going to be cheap. We have to pay for this. Just like it is not a winning proposition for a politician to step forward and say, I'm building more. My name's Matt Murphy. I'm running for state gobbledygook dog catcher, and I'm going to build more prisons. Nobody cares. Everybody, and you have to pay for them. Right? Everyone wants the prisoners locked up, but nobody runs on, I'm going to tax you into oblivion to build more prisons. One of the reasons that the levees failed in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, there is no vote in building infrastructure that nobody sees and spending money on that nobody sees, even if that presents a real and present danger to the general population. And politicians are invested in getting votes more so than anything else. Well, if I ran on the premise of I'm going to build mental institutions and you have to pay for them, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars that we're not going to spend on new paving for roads. We're not going to spend on building more infrastructure or better roads. We're not going to spend it on filling potholes. We're not going to spend it on education. We're going to spend it on mental institutions. Well, while it sounds all well and good for us to talk about that today, it doesn't play well when people go to the polls. People want to kind of whistle past the graveyard at that point. Out of Nashville comes Fletch, which is one of my all-time top 10 favorite movies. Hey, Fletch, how are you?
What's up, man? That's a great movie. Chevy Chase is killer. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind if I borrowed your towel. I just hit a water buffalo with my car. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. That's a line from Fletch, everybody. I'm not talking to this Fletch. Anyway, Is Fletch your real name, or is it your pseudonym? I'm just curious.
My real name's Fletcher, man, but I always go by Fletch.
Man, you are as cool as the other side of the pillow if you've got a name like Fletch. That's pretty cool.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
But, man, I had a few things I wanted to talk to you about, man. I called you a long time ago about medical marijuana when we talked about that.
Yep.
My thing is, dude, is you look at all this crime and stuff, man, I got indicted like 10 years ago by, the Nashville, state of Tennessee or federal government, all that stuff. And, man, it was for, prescription pills and stuff like that. And long story short, man, I'm still friends with my lawyer, and he told me they won't even prosecute cases like that anymore, man. They won't even build cases like that anymore. And the thing is like me getting charged in that case changed my life, man. The help I got from the federal government, probation, treatment, everything changed my life, dude. And it's just like it just bothers me when I see these kids out here making these young mistakes and getting no consequences for them, knowing there's no consequences for them. And it's like, how are they going to learn? What's going to deter them? It just irritates me, man.
Well, and you are so right. It is I might get this a little bit wrong, but Rudy Giuliani talked about it's the broken window method of policing, that you go after hard and heavy over the looters that smash the plate glass window, and you throw the book at them, because when you do, you A, get them off the streets, but you B, also show them the difficult life that is a life of crime. And if you hit them hard on the front end, you prevent worse crimes on the back end, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense, man. And that's just what bothers me, because it's just like, you look at even the people from California, how they can steal $1,000. And at the same time, I almost cussed, sorry. When I was on probation, I caught another charge for stealing World of Warcraft from Walmart. That $20 video game cost me $500 in fines, more fines for my lawyer, banned from Walmart for life, And it's like, I've never stolen another thing in my life. It's like, it just gets me out. There's no accountability for this stuff, dude. And it's only getting worse. I've worked in Nashville 5 years now, all over, man. The homeless.
Wait a minute. Fletch, you just said something to me that's very important to this conversation.
Okay.
That you're telling me that if I slip something into my wife's purse at Walmart, she'll get banned from Walmart for the rest of her life? That's good news.
He's not pitching it as a technique.
That's good news. I could keep her out of the Wally world for the well, it was trust me, that last part of that equation was to your benefit, not to your detriment. No, in all seriousness, look, you're right. Your point is correct. Fletch is exactly right. And thank you for the call. That if you hit people a little harder on the front end and show them a bit of tough love, there's a concept called being scared straight. When I was in school, the least offenses in school got you a paddling. Well, before they ended corporal punishment altogether in most of our school systems, I don't know what it's like in the state of Tennessee, but before corporal punishment was eliminated altogether, they had flipped that script, and corporal punishment was only for the worst of offenses, which is exactly the opposite of what it was designed to do. It was designed to prevent worse offenses by stinging that ass. Seriously. You get that hiney stung a couple of times by Ms. Boyd, who is a very, very angry lady. I didn't realize it at the time. Ms. Boyd was my 6th grade social studies teacher. Ms. Boyd was about 6'2", a large African-American woman that had lived through the civil rights era, and she was a very angry lady about it. And she took some of that anger out on my little white Fanny. But let me promise you something. I chewed gum in her class once. Once. The consequence of which was detention at lunchtime. Well, what did little Matt Murphy do when lunch came around? Oh, he forgot about it. He was playing on the playground with his friends. The next day, I had a difficult time sitting down for lunch because Ms. Boyd said, you know what you get for missing detention? For chewing gum, you get detention. For missing detention, you get 3 licks. This woman wasn't playing. That is called tough love. That is a deterrence to further crime. And in all seriousness, it works. But nowadays, they just let them walk. And if you get away with the small stuff, you're going to try to get away with the big stuff. That is real. Fletch, great call. 224, Super Talk 99.7, WTN. Hey, folks, Defend Systems wants to remind you that there is still availability, although it's short of it. I mean, there's not many seats left for the event happening tomorrow at Assyrian Corporate Headquarters. It is for teachers, any educator that deals with children. If you want to sign up for free, you have the ability to do that. Go to defendsystems.com. Defend Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Middle Tennessee. They have trained, if not hundreds, it is close to hundreds of Tennessee schools, teachers of those schools, about what to do in the unlikely event that you find violence in your midst. They also train you in the workplace. They can talk to you if you're on the corporate level as well. They want to speak to you. They want to make sure that you're as safe as possible and you understand best practices when it comes to active shooter response, workplace violence, and the like. The possibilities of you experiencing this are very slim, but they're not zero. And hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained. Let's do this. Reach out today at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or go online to defendsystems.com. And if you're a teacher and you have a work day tomorrow, so you are out of school, look into this seminar happening tomorrow morning with Defend Systems. Go to defendsystems.com.
Senator Joe Manchin makes an announcement on whether or not he is running for re-election. Some justice in Memphis and fentanyl found in envelopes. Those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I want everyone to know I'm doing this intentionally. He's not running. He's not. Nanny, boo. I ruined your tease. Ha ha. Did that intentionally.
But is he running for something else?
I don't know. That's
the question.
Now, that might be answered during the news in about a minute or so. That is a good question, whether or not Joe Manchin has other intentions involving 2024. It's been said that it would completely upset the dynamic of the 2024 election cycle if Joe Biden had a viable, legit candidate running against him in the Democrat primary. And, that we thought that might be Robert Kennedy, but he's kind of out there on some of these other issues. He's kind of in the hinterland. And so he never caught fire within the Democrat. And they kind of pushed him aside. And so there you go. I don't think they could push away Joe Manchin if Joe Manchin made the decision. And I think that would force Joe Biden to make some decisions about how he campaigns, whether or not he debates. And frankly, they have a prescription. The Democrats have a prescription to win in 2024. It very much involves centering around abortion politics. They believe that they have a winning strategy on abortion politics. That gives them an opportunity to stay away from divisions within their own party regarding the Israeli-Hamas/Palestinian conflict and other matters involving foreign policy. The fact that Bidenomics sucks and the fact that he's trying to label it as Bidenomics is dumb. Hey, Mr. President, it's good to see you. Good to see you. By the way, the funniest thing I've heard on the radio in a long time was your stop this morning. I heard that.
My don't when I did the don't.
Oh, the don't. It was the don't. Yeah, it was the don't.
Oh, thank you.
Chris Hand was playing the liner from Alejandro Mayorkas.
Yeah.
What was the line that Mayorkas kept saying?
That is correct.
That is correct. That is correct. And we were playing the game of if you ask the right questions, right?
Yeah, you can do that. That is correct.
That is correct. Are you a dumbass? That is correct. That kind of thing. And so, and Maury threw in the, Mayorkas was going to bring some of the facts about southern border exposure, and he asked the president if he should, and the president said, "Oh well," or he said, or don't, or he said, "Don't." It is. Yeah, he does say that too. He's already forgotten it. He's already forgotten it. Tom. Okay, well, if I want to see Dan Mandis' temper, I'm going to keep going because I had to do a break. We got to get to the news. Mac Moore's back in the newsroom. More of your calls coming up, and we'll talk to the redheaded stranger who's filling in for Brian Wilson this afternoon. It is 2:31 on Super Talk.
$2:31, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 64 degrees in Middle Tennessee. We got a full weather forecast headed your way. 2 minutes. West Virginia Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, who has at times been a lone voice in his party and seeking to hold back parts of the president's agenda, says he will not remain in the Senate after next year. Stephen Portnoy.
In a video announcement, the West Virginia Democratic senator says he will not be seeking a third Senate term.
But what I will be doing is traveling the country and speaking out to see if there is an interest in creating a movement to mobilize the middle.
For months, Joe Manchin has refused to rule anything out when he's been asked whether he might consider a run for the presidency, possibly as an independent. His decision to vacate his West Virginia Senate seat means a likely pickup for Republicans in the chamber next year.
Manchin said, quote, "The growing divide between Democrats and Republicans is paralyzing Congress and worsening our nation's problems. The majority of Americans are just plain worn out," end quote. Crime in Memphis. News 2 says that 13 missing children were found after a joint operation to help in stopping human trafficking. On Thursday, November 2nd and Friday, November 3rd, officials said 6 teams from multiple agencies, including the U.S. Marshals Service, Homeland Security Investigations, the Memphis Police Department, and the Tennessee Department of Children's Services, searched 56 locations in the Memphis area. 12 of those kids ranged in age from 11 to 17, along with one 2-month infant. They were all found and are now out of harm. And an investigation is being launched as suspicious envelopes appear at election offices. Alex Stone.
Envelopes with white powder in them have reportedly been arriving at election offices around Washington state and in the Atlanta area. They've come back negative for chemical or biological agents, but at least 2 have come back positive for fentanyl, one in Spokane and one in King County, Washington. The FBI is collecting the evidence, one official calling it domestic terrorism. The FBI in Atlanta says the envelopes appeared this week at election offices nationwide.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy. And, Veterans Day is upon us. There's a lot of Veterans Day activities going on this Saturday, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of those coming up in just a moment. But I want to remind you of a wonderful organization that I recently became aware of. It's the Special Operators Transition Foundation. The Special Operators Transition Foundation provides tailored veterans transition programs for top-tier special operation leaders, and they help transition them into America's best businesses with their veteran talent. In other words, they take the best of the best, the most elite of the elite in special operations, and they find them positions in businesses here in Nashville and beyond. They were started in 2013. They had their first veterans complete the program in 2014. But this does cost money, and it is a 501c3. So you're invited to give as you can. Now, what are they asking? Well, if you are someone that's looking for good workers, then maybe you can be a hiring partner if you're a business looking for upper management elite skill sets. Perhaps you'd like to host a transition workshop or simply donate as a 501c3. Donations are what fund this great organization. Go to SOTF.org. That's SOTF.org for more information. And tell them you heard about them on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has 2 locations to serve you, gentlemen. But if you're a lady, don't tune out for the next 60 seconds. I want you to listen as well. Because if you've noticed that your guy is a little more sluggish than he used to be, if he doesn't have the energy or the vitality that he used to, maybe it's yard work, maybe it's going to the gym, maybe it's getting things done around the house, or, maybe it's more intimate activities. I'm not here to talk about those intimate activities, but I'm here to tell you that I can help you. It might be coming from the same place, and that is a lowered T level. If you don't know what your T levels are, did you know that over the last 40 years, they've been going down nationwide, really worldwide, and more importantly than that, you can repair it naturally in your own body with a visit from the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Now, it might not be that, and they'll tell you other alternatives, or if it is, they can solve it for you jiffy quick. Go by TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to find out more. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or schedule an appointment today by calling 615-208-9090. 208-9090. 2 locations. One is in Midtown, been there for almost 3 decades. The other, new location in Cool Springs in Franklin for those of you south of the city. It's Tennessee Men's Clinic. Oh, so much. You know, the caller, I think it was Fletch, might not have been Fletch, mentioned how much was going on today. And there's a lot going on today. So much so that I've not really gotten that much into the debate last night. But frankly, I didn't watch it live. I did catch some of the recap. And I did think I want to like Vivek Ramaswamy. And then he does things that I don't like interviews with Alex Jones. But I'll just speak to this real quick, and then I want to get on to other things. Vivek Ramaswamy, in my opinion, was absolutely in his right to clap back at Nikki Haley because she brought it up. She started it. She clapped at him over him being on TikTok last debate and said that you're hurting kids. Kids are getting on TikTok because of you. And so his team did a little research and found out, wait a minute, Nikki Haley's daughter's on TikTok. And by the way, a lot of people were mad at him because I think they have in their minds a perception that her little girl is like 10 and out of bounds. 25 years old. Nikki Haley's daughter is 25 years old and on TikTok. And he is exactly right. Before you come clapping at me on this matter, maybe you need to deal with it on your own family. I thought it was brilliant. I thought he did really well last night. I find myself wanting to like this guy. And then he does stupid stuff like interviews with Alex Jones. Okay, real quick. A lot of things going on Saturday, because Saturday is Veterans Day. I want to mention, although I will not be able to be there, and I wish I could be there, that there is an event, a Veterans Day fundraiser event, raising money for our veterans in need of support. The event is happening at Beach Church on Long Hollow Pike in Hendersonville. I was made aware of it by Tim Jones and some other members of the Sumner County Commission. Alan West, the executive director of American Constitutional Rights Union, will be there. Of course, he's a former representative in Florida, retired Army. And Elaine Roach will also be there as a special guest. She is a Gold Star daughter and mother. Gold Star daughter and mother, which is incredible to contemplate. That's Saturday morning at 11 o'clock at Beach Church, Long Hollow Pike. Go there if you have any ability to do so. And then the big one, at least for me, in my mind, because I know what a wonderful organization it benefits and I know what a wonderful event it is in Franklin at the factory, and I'm excited to have Pamela Furr tell us even more about it.
Yeah.
And excited that you're filling in for Brian, who's apparently doing great.
He's doing great, and apparently he was texting a lot of people last night, and I sent him a text this morning and said, I'm offended that you didn't text me at all. And he goes,
Hey,
pro tip, what? Did you get
Fix the camera so she can barely see the ginger on the...
How about that?
Is that better?
There we go. Now we can see the full lack of salt.
He hates redheads. God bless. Anyway, Brian was texting everybody last night, so I sent a text and said, I'm offended I didn't get a text. So he said, apparently I did it while I was coming out of the anesthesia. So don't text when you're high.
Don't text while on the drugs, on the meds. Yeah. But he's doing well, and that's good. And I know you've got a busy show this afternoon in his absence.
We'll be talking about stuff. I think
it's a crazy news day. I mean, it really is a lot.
There was a debate last night that was certainly interesting. I did watch the whole thing.
Did you?
I did. And although I have comments, did it move the needle for anybody? I doubt it very seriously.
It's one of the reasons that, and I'm not saying it's not worthy of discussion. It is. But one of the reasons that I kind of put it behind some other matters is, if I just say, ooh, Vivek, he did so well, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, does it matter? I mean, congratulations, Vivek. You can be the press secretary for Donald Trump or whatever it is.
You can raise a little bit more money that's going to be going to nothing.
Although, if you're going to talk about this during your portion of the day, you don't have to bring it. But, I mean, my take on the Vivek, Nikki, are you going to talk about that a little bit?
Well,
the back and
maybe.
Forth? Okay.
But
we'll just
maybe.
Maybe a little different.
So.
And you, from a female perspective, maybe there's a different perspective. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I do think that her getting so self-righteous about the daughter comment and TikTok was a little off because the daughter is an adult. So the daughter can do what she wants.
Right. She's not 12.
It was a 10-year-old. But then I noticed she took the Will Smith kind of route. Don't get your daughter's name out of your voice or whatever it was.
I might have more respect if she'd have thrown the F-bomb like Will Smith did.
Or slapped him.
Smacked him one. Just walked over there. She's taller than him, even without the heels, I bet. It's close. So, Saturday night.
Yes.
Are there still tickets available?
There are, yes. Bourbon Bash Tix, TIX.com is where you can get the tickets. We would love to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be indoors this year, whereas last year was outdoors and quite cold, as I recall.
Oh, I remember that.
It was like 20 degrees outside.
It was cold.
But we had a big tent, we had heaters, and we had fire pits everywhere. So it was a nice experience. But this year it'll be at the factory in Franklin. And I'm telling you, we have so much stuff for the silent auction and the live auction that'll be so fun. And those live auctioneers, I mean, that's really the entertainment, is it not? It's just fun. It's fun, and be careful. No, I shouldn't say this.
I was smart enough to stay out of that.
Yeah.
The live auction, there are people, because that's the really nice bourbons.
Yeah.
Those are the bourbons that people really, really want. I did some silent auction bidding.
Yeah.
I did some, I call it bourbon bidding. If you've never done, it's so much fun. You're like, oh yeah, I'll bid that. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. What, I won? Oh, well.
I didn't mean to pay that.
Here's the old Amex.
Yeah. So that's a lot of fun. We've got a band this year, Tim Shelton's Syndicate, that's going to play, and Ronnie Bowman's going to join him. And it's great bluegrass music. Ronnie Bowman has written songs with Chris Stapleton, songs you'd know. And so that's going to be really cool. And lots of distilleries, lots of bourbon. But the silent auction items this year, not only rare bourbons will be auctioning off, but we also have a rifle that gun owners would love. I wish I could describe it to you, but I don't have the information in front of me. My phone's in the other room.
Here's the way
shooters would love this rifle.
Here's the way you do it.
You can customize it yourself. It's pretty bad.
This is the way that I would say it. You imagine if you are a shooter or a gun aficionado.
Yeah.
Imagine the finest rifle you can possibly imagine. That's what this is.
It's up there.
You just need to be there. You just need to be there. So here's the best.
Will my bump stock work on?
No. Here's the best side hustle going. If enough of you get tickets for Bourbon Bash, I mean, it is well worth the ticket price because you'll get to sample some delicious bourbons. You'll see some great entertainment. There'll be some, all kind of food and whatnot.
Food is amazing. I remember last year you kept coming up to me going, "Oh my God, this food is so good."
I don't know that I was going, "Oh my God." Well, maybe.
You were.
Maybe. I wasn't driving. Your wife was driving. So, but the best side hustle that you can get going, the more of you that come to Bourbon Bash, I'm just going to tell you. So, I will be there.
Yes.
Pamela will be there.
Yes.
And all of you should buy tickets, if nothing else, than to come up and want to talk to me during the entire event. That's what I do for you. This is what I'm doing for you. So Pamela knows why I'm saying this.
Yes, I do.
So I'm at the event and I am laser focused.
Not on me. Not on the bourbon either.
So it's so funny because I had to tell Pamela, I was like, listen, I'm just letting you know I'm there for you.
Yeah,
I'm there from the beginning.
I'm there, but I'm
I'm there to the end. But I'm telling you, the Georgia Bulldogs are playing Ole Miss during the Bourbon Bash.
Yeah, I asked today. I didn't realize what time it started. I go, what time is that game? And he goes, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
The Bourbon Bash starts at 6 o'clock.
I'm there.
Well,
but wouldn't it be funny for all you Tennessee fans or Bama fans or fans of any other school to engage me in enough conversation that you distract me from the game? And I promise you, if you come up and talk to me, I'll talk to you. I'm not going to ignore you.
You're just going to have the phone in one hand while you're talking to.
I'm just trying to sell. I'm just trying to sell tickets.
Well, I think that will be entertaining. The other entertaining part will see a redhead get really ticked off because you're just completely oblivious to what's happening.
Oh, we could take an over/under vote on how many times I say what. I don't what.
Or you need a drink, I'll get it for you.
Well, bourbonbashtix.com. TIX, right? Bourbon
Yes,
Bash
TIX.com. And it'll be a lot of fun. And, proceeds are to go for, look, there are all kinds of great causes out there, and you've talked about a couple, and we certainly love Charlie Daniels' Journey Home Project. But this one is for the Freedom and Whiskey Foundation, which is a foundation that helps transitioning special forces, special operation or operators,
right.
The elite of the elite, transition back into real life. They have amazing skills that you and I don't have.
Right.
And so there should be companies out there just, drooling all over themselves to get them hired. And so that's what this organization helps them do.
Well, I'm excited about
One
it.
of the
I wanted to talk with you about it. And I want everyone to go get tickets and come out and see us at the factory in Franklin.
It really
Saturday
is a lot
night.
of fun.
It is
We got to get Dan Mandis to come back out there, but he's got something going on with the wife that weekend.
Boss Man Dandis.
Yeah.
I call him Boss Man Dandis now.
Boss
Man Dandis.
Dandis. All right.
Kind of a little. See what I did there?
Yeah, I do.
I feel compelled. Can you hang around? I feel
Sure.
compelled because I've asked these people to call, and like Jeff's been holding on for an hour, and
Wow.
that's just insane.
Nice, Jeff.
And so I just want to try to field some of these because Jeff, I so appreciate you and your patience, and I'm so sorry. I owe you a bottle of water and an ink pen used by me. Okay. Look, I built all of that up.
He left a long time ago.
Well, I don't blame him. I mean, I would have. Jeff, I tried. If you're out there somewhere, Jeff, if you're in a trunk, knock twice. No? Okay. Amy, Jeff's loss is your gain. Amy has not held for an hour, but I bet it feels like it. Hey, Amy, how are you?
Hey, Matt, I'm great. Just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the deinstitutionalization actually began with President Kennedy in the 50s. His sister was mentally ill and actually was taken away, as the story goes, in the middle of the night and lobotomized. And so his intention was to prevent that barbaric kind of treatments from occurring anymore. So that's where the institutionalization for the entire country began. I deal with this personally because my brother is schizophrenic, lives on the streets in North Carolina. He commits violent crimes every time he comes out of jail. He cannot be prosecuted because he's mentally insane at the time of the crime. He has done everything, raped, attempted murder, all the things, and it's just a matter of time before he gets a murder charge and takes some poor person's life. And there's no answer here until the federal government actually implements change. The state legislature just really doesn't have an niche in this.
Well, and I would say that I don't know. It's all about where the pendulum is, right? I don't know that I don't foresee a time that we will ever swing the pendulum back to just, they're different or they have psychiatric episodes, so we're just going to lock them up forever. I don't think we're ever going to get back to that. I would say that we swung the pendulum perhaps a little too far in leniency in dealing with people exterior to confinement. And frankly, a lot of what we did in the middle of the last century was due to some of the psychiatric and psychotropic drugs that were made available that would calm some of these episodes, legitimately calm some of these episodes. But sadly, it doesn't work for everybody. And I think we've gotten way too lenient on the other side. Amy, God bless you. I'm out of time, and I'm sorry. Please call back because that's a very, very good call, and I appreciate you. Tom, I won't be able to get to you. I will be able to ask Pamela Furr.
Yes.
What's coming up on the drive?
We may talk a little country music.
I didn't, and I want to.
Yeah. Do you want to stick around for 30 minutes?
But
you got someplace you got to go?
I got to take Belle home.
Oh, is Belle got to go right away?
Are you taking me home again?
I mean, if you want.
Sure.
He's like, please take me home. I don't want to talk to family at 3 o'clock.
That means maybe I will be able to call because Belle's got other duties to do.
He's got stuff to do.
I can stick
All
around.
right, but we're going to talk a little country music. We do want to continue to talk about, because now it is the death of a Belmont student. And I know that you have been talking about, all the guys I think today have been talking about that. A sad, sad story, but what is the solution?
Mm-hmm.
What is the solution to get them off the streets? Is Glenn Funk partly to blame? I think he is, but he swears he just did what he was legally able to do. So maybe we need to start changing some laws here in the state. I am all about states' rights. So at any rate, we'll talk about that. We'll do a little debrief on last night's debate. And then I really want to dive into a poll that came out that I don't know a lot of people are talking about. I know people were excited about Donald Trump looking good in those states, right? Those swing states. You add RFK in there, Donald Trump is not looking that good. So that could be a spoiler come 2024. Big time. It only helps Biden. It doesn't help Donald Trump.
And that's all coming in mere moments right after these messages and news from Mac Morey. Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson in the Drive. Coming up next, it's 2:54 on Super Talk.